Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Verb Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. If this is your first time on this channel, you are highly welcome. And please make sure to click on the subscribe button to subscribe and also put on your notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for always coming by. Thank you. I really appreciate. In this video, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful gown that has a V opening at the neckline area. And you can see it has a bias around the neckline. And this is the beautiful lace trimming we have at the front of the gown that runs all the way from the neckline down to the hem of the gown. And it also has gigot sleeves with band. I hope this is something you are interested in learning. Please make sure to sit tight while we get right into the video. So this is the Ankara print we'll be using for this project, and this is the lace trimming I'll be using to decorate the gown. So to get started, I'm going to fold the fabric first to achieve the width of the gown. Ankara comes in 45 inches in length. So 45 inches will not be enough to give me the long length. So I'll have to turn the Ankara print horizontally. Just watch carefully and see how I'm going to fold the fabric. So this part is the selvage of the Ankara, both sides. Can you see? I'm going to use it to achieve the width of the gown. So I'll be folding this fabric using the biggest circumference we're working with. So you want to always fold your fabric using the biggest circumference so that it will be enough to give you your measurement. So in this case, the hip is the biggest circumference we're working with. If the bust is the biggest, please feel free to use the bust. So here the hip is 48 inches. 48 divided by 4, that's 12 inches. So plus 2 inches for side seam allowance, that's 14 inches. So I'm going to fold about 15 inches, which is just going to be enough for this. So I'm making it 15 inches so that I just have a little bit of cutting allowance. So once I have 15 inches folded, I can now straighten out the fabric. So here right now I have 15 inches. So I'm just going to fold the fabric or lay the fabric properly on the table. Okay, so I have the fabric folded on the table already. So the next thing I'm going ahead to do now is to measure the length of the fabric. The full length of the gown I'm making is 58 inches plus 2 inches for hemming allowance. That's going to be 60 inches. So once I have my 60 inches, I'm going to straighten out the line and then cut out the fabric. So I'll cut it out. This is to enable me draft for both front and back together. So I'll cut it out at this point and then place the fabric on the remaining Ankara fabric and still cut out exactly what I have here so that I can draft for front and back together. That's draft for the front and back together at once. Okay, I'm going to cut out this and then I'll show us the next thing to do. Now the fabric is folded into two. So the one under is for the back and while the one on top is for the front. So next I'm going to draw the starting line, which is the shoulder line. So on this shoulder line, I'm going to mark half of the shoulder measurement plus half inch for joining the sleeve, which is 8 inches, right? The shoulder is 15, 15 divided by 2, that's 7.5 plus half inch, that's 8 inches. So on the shoulder line also, I'll mark 3 inches, which is the width of the neckline. So at this 8 inches, I'm going down by 1 inch to create the shoulder slant. If you have been watching my videos by now, you should be used to this. So now we have the shoulder slant. So next I'm going to mark the armhole measurement. And the armhole I'm using here is 8 inches. So from the shoulder slant, I'll come down by 8 inches to mark the armhole measurement. And at that point, I'll still confirm the 8 inches I have on the shoulder line. This is for me to have a straight line that will run to the shoulder like this. So you can see I've connected it to the shoulder. It's a straight line. So I just went ahead to square out the armhole. So next I'm going to mark the waistline. From shoulder to waistline is 17 inches. And then from shoulder to hip line is 25 inches. The full length of the gown is 58 inches. So plus hemming allowance of 2 inches. So that's a total of 60 inches. So that's 60 inches. So I'm just going to straighten out the lines. Having done that, the next thing now to do is to draw the armhole. So to get the armhole, I'm going to get the midpoint of the armhole, which is 4 inches. And then I'll go in by half of an inch. So right now, this armhole is the back armhole I'm drawing. So I went in by half of an inch at the midpoint, and then you can see I'm correcting it back to the shoulder tip, and then I'll curve it to meet the chest line. That's the armhole line. So at the chest line here, I'm going to enter quarter of the bust measurement on the chest line, which is also the armhole line. Quarter of the bust measurement is 10 inches. So I'll mark like 10 inches at this point and then curve the armhole to meet this point. You see? So curve it. So right now this is the back armhole. So for the front armhole, at the midpoint of the armhole also, I'll go in by 3/4 of an inch, and then I'll also repeat the same thing. I'll connect it back to the shoulder tip and then curve it to meet the 10 inches on the chest line. Now we have the front armhole and the back armhole. So next I'm going to enter quarter of the bust measurement, which is what I've done already. So plus my sewing allowance of 2 inches and then plus half inch for turning the lining. I'm going to be using French finishing, so I need that half inch to turn the lining. On the waistline, I'll enter quarter of the waist measurement plus the same 2 inches, then plus half inch for turning the lining, so which is 2.5. Okay, so I'll mark 2.5. I'm using this 2.5 allowance because I want this gown, or this gown is really supposed to be free, so we don't want it fitted at all, so we need it to be free. Okay, so that's why I'm making sure that I use 2.5 so that we have the enough allowance that we need. Okay, so on the hip line, I entered quarter of the hip measurement plus 2.5 inches, and I'll enter exactly that measurement. What I have on the hip line, I'll enter it again on the hem line. So because it's going to be straight, so the hip measurement, what I have on the hip measurement is what I'm marking on the hem line. So I'll go ahead and use my straight ruler to connect the points just like this. Having done that, the next thing now to do is the neckline. We're using a neck width of 3 inches and a back neck depth of 1 inch. So I'm just going to curve out the back neck depth and then the front neck depth of 3 inches as well. So 3 by 3 for the front and then 3 by 1 for the back. Okay, so you can just see the way I'm curving it like this, just really simple. So on the shoulder line here, I'll go up by half of an inch. This half inch that's on the shoulder slant, this half inch is for joining the shoulders of the front and back together. So now it's time to cut out our pieces. So I'm cutting on the back, which has the higher neckline, and I'm cutting on the half inch extra I added to the shoulder slant there. and then I'll cut on the back armhole first. So when I'm done doing that, I'll now separate the front from the back and cut the front properly. I'll go ahead and cut the sides. Now I can now separate the front from the back so we can cut the front properly. So I'll cut the front armhole first, and then I'll cut the front neckline. Now to create the V shape at the front neckline, first I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches from the front neck depth, and then from the center front I will go in by half of an inch. First I went down by 1.5 inches, and then from the center front I went in by half of an inch, and then you can see I'm connecting it to create the V shape. I'll bring in my scissors and cut this out, okay? And now this is what it looks like when it is open. Can you see? So you can see the V shape at the front neckline. So now we have our front and back piece, or our front and back pieces. So I'll go ahead and cut my lining. I'll make my lining 2 inches shorter than the main fabric. That's the hemming allowance is 2 inches, so the lining will be 2 inches shorter than the main Ankara fabric. So now the next thing we're going to do now is to place the lace at the front of this gown. So before placing the lace trimmings, let's cut the sleeve first. So to cut the sleeve, I'm folding my fabric, my leftover fabric on bias. You can see I folded it to achieve a triangular shape. So next I'm going to get where the armhole, where I can get the armhole, you can see. So here at this point, I have about 12 inches, which is going to be enough for the armhole measurement. So I'm just going to mark a straight line at this point. So you want to make sure that wherever you're marking, you can get your armhole measurement there. So I have about 12 inches here. And from this 12 inches mark, I will go up by the cap's height. So I'm going up with a cap's height of 4 inches. And then I'm going to create a slanted line. So to create the slanted line, at the down part where I have my 12 inches, I'll just go in by 3 inches. So I'm left with 9 inches just to get the armhole measurement. Okay, so and the armhole measurement is actually 8 inches, but I went in by 3 inches from, because this is a gigot sleeve, so I'm going to have a little bit of pleats at the upper part. So I'm just going to curve in the armhole like this. Can you see how I'm creating my curve? So now we have the upper part of the sleeve, which is the sleeve cap. And then the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure the length of the sleeve. So from the apex of the sleeve, I'm going ahead to measure 22 inches. So I'll mark by 22 inches. So from this apex, I'll keep marking 22 inches round like this. So and this 22 inches is plus my joining allowance and everything. So that's 22 inches in all. So you can see, I'm just going to mark it round. And now our sleeve is ready. I'll cut it out like this. So you can see how I did it. It's really simple. You can just use your free hand to create this and you are good. So here I'll cut out the base of the sleeve. So this is one sleeve. I'm going to place this on my leftover fabric and cut the remaining sleeve. So you can see this is how I'm going to have the sleeve gather at the down part, and then we'll sew the band to it, and this is what it looks like as it is open. So I'll place it on the fabric and cut the second one, and then I'll cut out the band and show us the next thing to do. So to cut the band, I'll fold over my leftover fabric. The length of the band is going to be 3 inches. So plus half inch for joining it to the main sleeve. So that's 3.5. So once I have 3.5 like this, I'll go ahead and fold it into 4. So take note that I folded already into 2, and then I'm cutting out at the 3.5 part, and then I'll go ahead and fold it into 4 now. So to achieve the round elbow measurement, and the round elbow I'm working with is 12 inches. So when you fold into 2, that will give you 6. So 6 plus 1.5 inches or 1 inch sewing allowance, that's fine. So if it is 1.5, so that's 7 inches. So once I have that 7 inches down, you can see I'm going to cut it out like this. So this is what the band is looking like. It's on fold. So I'm going to have it at the elbow like this. So I'll cut the second one, and then we'll go ahead and place our lace trimmings on the front of the gown. So now here is our front and back piece. So for the back, I'm going to slit it open by 6 inches. This is so that the head can easily pass through. Remember that the front neckline is quite high as well as the back neckline. So this is so that the head can pass. I'm going to have a button at the back. So I came down by 6 inches and I went ahead to slit it open because we do not have a zip allowance. We're not going to have a zipper at the back of this gown. So now we're done with the back. So here is the front piece so that we can now place our lace trimmings. So to place the lace trimmings, you need your hemming gum. I'm going to make sure to press the center front well so that my crease line will be very obvious, because we need this to be able to centralize the, or to be able to place the lace trimmings properly. So once I'm done pressing it, I'll open it up and my crease line will be obvious, and then we'll go ahead and start placing the lace trimmings. So you can see that my crease line is very glaring. We can see it clearly. So here now is our lace trimming. I'm going to place it half inch away from the V neckline that I have here in front. I want to make sure that it is sitting on the curved part of the neckline. So from the center front here, I will move away by 1 inch. Can you see? So I want to make sure that it's away from the V neckline. Can you see that? So from the V neckline, it's half inch away from it, and it is about 1 inch away from the center front. Can you see this is our center front? So half inch away from the V neckline, and then it is 1 inch away from the center front. Just watch how I'm placing it. Will understand what I'm doing. And then it must also get to the curve of the neckline. So I'll place it in a way that it will get to the curve that it will sit completely into the neckline. So you don't want to see the starting point, so that I can use my lining to turn the neckline. That's to stitch it so you don't see the starting point of the lace trimming. So I'm going ahead to press it down so that everything is sitting nice and flat, and then we'll place correctly on the neckline. Okay, so I'm done ironing the lace trimming. So you can see that the scallop part of the lace is facing the other side. That's the side, not the part facing the center. Okay, so I want the scallop part of the lace to face the side. So we have them fit, that's the lace facing each other. So like I said, I made it 1 inch away from the center front. This is so that the V neckline is there at the middle, and then the lace trimmings are on both sides. So having done that, you can see that at the neckline area, I made sure that the rough part, that's the edge of the lace trimming, is completely outward. That's I pushed it out so that by the time I use my lining to turn the neckline, will completely hide the beginning of the lace trimming. I hope that makes sense. So now I'll go ahead and use my hemming gum to hold it down before we go and stitch it on our sewing machine. So I'm going ahead to place the hemming gum. I'll place it from the center side like this. This is my 1 inch hemming gum. Just going to raise it up a little and then place the hemming gum underneath. You want to make sure that you completely conceal the tips of the hemming gum under the lace trimming. So I'm going to place this hemming gum all the way down to the hem of the gown. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side and make sure to press it very well with my steam iron so that it dissolves completely. So you want to just be very careful so that this does not shift. So for the neckline area, that's at the upper part, I pin that point so that it helps to hold it down. You don't want to finish and then it has shifted from where you want it to be. So I pinned the neckline, that's the lace trimming, to the neckline before raising it up gradually to place the hemming gum underneath. So I'm going to place my hemming gum all the way down to the hem. I'll press it down and then also fix the hemming gum to the other side where I have the scallop part of the lace. That's the other side towards the side of the front, right? So I'll do that and then we'll do the other side also. So it is good to use a steam iron to press this hemming gum. This is so that the iron can release enough steam to dissolve the hemming gum. You don't want to finish fixing your hemming gum under the lace trimming and then it's looking all whitish. So when you use your steam iron, it has a way of really dissolving the hemming gum and you won't see any whitish stuff showing under. So right now I'm placing the hemming gum under the lace trimming on the other side. So I made sure that the part with the scallop part is also facing the side at the other side, and then I'm pressing it down as well. You see? So you can see that the space now in between the lace at the center front is now 2 inches. Remember that on the other side is half inch and 1 inch on the other side. So when I place the other side again on the same 1 inch, so I'll have a space of 2 inches between them. And then I'm going ahead to trim out the excess and the lace. So you can see how the lace just sits on the neckline. So by the time I use my half inch to sew the neckline, it will completely hide the tip of the lace inside. So right now I'll take this to my sewing machine and top stitch the lace on both sides. If you don't top stitch it, by the time you start washing this outfit, the lace trimming will definitely go off because it's not a permanent hemming gum we used to gum it. So for the band of the sleeve, I'll also have the lace trimming on the band of the sleeve. Can you see? So I'm going to also press it down using the hemming gum to hold it down at the tip of the band like this, and then I will also take it to the sewing machine and stitch it down just like I'm going to stitch down the one on the front piece. So this is what I have here. You can see I only gummed one side and I left the scallop part and I placed the lace trimming in a way that it's half inch longer, just a little longer than the band. So that means I place it like 1¼ inch from the tip. Okay, that's I came down by 1¼ inch before placing the lace trimming. Why am I saying this? This is because we want the scallop part of the lace trimming to end the band. That's just for it to just come out a little. Just see the way it is. You understand what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to place my hemming gum just at the upper part like this. Okay, and then I'll also place the lace. So I placed it 1¼ inch away from the opened part of the band. Can you see that? So you can see that the scallop part of the lace is a little outward, or it's a little longer than the band. That's what I mean. So I'm going to also press it down like this. So once I'm done, I'll take this to my sewing machine and stitch it. Remember that my band is on fold. So to be able to sew this lace trimming, I'm going to open the band so that you don't see the stitch from the other side of the fabric. So I'm going to open it and top stitch it in a way that the stitch will be in between the band. Can you see what I have here? So I'm going to stitch it, but I will open it up. I won't be sewing it. I won't be sewing the both of them together. So this is what I mean. Can you see how my band is open? So I'm going to stitch here and then I'll fold it back so that at the end of the day you don't see the stitch on the other side of the band. So I'm going to take this my sewing machine and stitch on both sides on the gown. And then for the band I'll stitch only on the side where I have the hemming gum. Okay, so I'm done stitching the lace trimmings to the front of the gown. You can see my stitch lines here, and I sewed only on the Ankara fabric. So I repeated the same thing for the band as well, and I've closed up the upper part of the band as I've stitched them together at the open part. So now it's time for us to sew the lining to the main fabric. So here, this is the front lining. I'm going to place it on the right side of the fabric, and I will sew only on the V shape I have here on the neckline, just on the V shape. I won't be turning the entire neckline because I'm going to have a bias at the neckline. Okay, so I'll stitch only on the V shape. Then next I'm going to stitch the hem of the gown, and then stitch the sides, and then I'll go ahead and bring it out, that's turn it out from the armhole. So for the back I'm going to repeat the same thing. I will also stitch the slit that I have at the center back. I'll stitch the slit I have at the center back, and then hem the down part as well, and then sew the sides and bring it out from the armhole. So you can see this is our back piece. So this is what I mean. I'll stitch only on the slit and then hem the down part, and then sew the sides and bring it out from the armhole. So I'll do that. And then for the sleeve also, I'm going to gather the sleeve to fit into the band I have here. So the sleeve, you can see that it's quite wide. So I'll gather it. I'll use the longest stitch on my machine to run a loose stitch so I can gather it, which is what I have done. I'll gather it and then pin the band to the base of the sleeve and then stitch it together. So whatever it is I have at the band, that's at the base of the band, is what I'll be at the band. That's what I will be gathering the sleeve, the down part of the sleeve, that's the wider part of the sleeve. That's what I'll be gathering it to, and then I'll pin it and stitch the band and the sleeves together and come back and show us the next thing to do. So I'm done sewing the front neckline. I just went ahead to iron gum stay to the neckline. This was an afterthought. It is not compulsory, but this will actually help the neckline to sit better. It will make it firm around this side so that the V shape can be sharp. I just hope we understand what I'm trying to say. To give it that sharpness, because when you have hemming gum on your neckline, it just has a way of giving it this firmness. Okay, so I've stitched the sides also. So then I've gone ahead to notch the V shape that I have on the neckline. I'll turn it out and give it a very good press, and then I'll repeat the same thing for the back piece. For the back piece, I didn't add this hemming gum. I'm sorry, gum stay. I didn't add this gum stay to the neckline at all. I didn't do that. I only did it for the front because I just like I said, it have a way of making the V shape firm so that it's not slacked or whatever. So you just need it to be very firm. So that's why I added it. I will advise that you do that. You will like the outcome. So I'm going to give it a very nice press, and then I'll join the front and back shoulders together and fix the sleeve, and then show us the next thing to do. So I'm done sewing the shoulders together, and I went ahead to sew the sleeve to the armhole, and then I went ahead to close up the side. That's to shape the side. I also went ahead to fix my pockets. So just in case you don't know how to fix a pocket, I'll be dropping the link in the description box on how to fix inside invisible pocket to your gown. Okay, I've done a video on how to do that, so I don't want this video to be longer than necessary. Okay, so that's why. So now the last thing we're going to be doing is to create the bias that we'll have here at the neck line. To create the bias, first things first, I'm going to measure the distance I have here on the V neckline. So from one side of the V neckline to the other side, I have 2 inches. Then I'll go ahead and measure what I have from the V neckline to the back, and I have 7¼ inch. I'll measure the other side as well. I'm going to have the same 7¼ inch. So that's 7¼ on this side, 7¼ on this side. That's 14½. So plus the 2 inches I have at the V neckline area, that's 16.5. So that means the bias I'm going to cut has to be 16.5, and then I'll add my sewing allowance. So I can make it extra 2 inches. That's 1 inch on both sides. That would be 18.5. So I'll bring in my leftover fabric like this, and then I'm going to fold the fabric on bias. I'm not going to fold it straight. This is because the neckline is curved. It's a round neckline. So to be able to sew round that neckline, your fabric must be able to stretch. And once you have folded your fabric on bias, whether it is Ankara or whatever fabric you have, it will surely stretch out. So you want to do that. Make sure that you don't fold your fabric straight. You fold it in a way that it will be on bias. So this will actually help the fabric to stretch out and sew around any curvy neckline. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and measure the length. I haven't folded it, so on fold I'm going to measure 1 inch. So I'm marking 1 inch, sorry, 1¼ inch. I'll mark 1¼ inch. That's from the folded part, 1¼ inch. I'll mark 1¼ inch till I have the length I want to have. So as you can see, I've cut out the fabric we'll be using for the bias. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to fold 1/2 inch. Take note that the fabric is folded on the right side, okay? So now I'll fold 1/2 inch on one side, and then I'll press it down. So while pressing it down, you need an ironing wood. So this will actually help to keep the crease line down. That's to keep whatever you have ironed down. So this is so that it doesn't come out. Can you see how the fabric is already stretching out already? That is curving already because it was cut on bias. So on the other side, I'll also fold 1/2 inch. Remember that my fabric is 1¼ inch on fold. So by folding 1/2 inch on one side, 1/2 inch on the other side, that means I'm going to be left with 3/4, 3/4 on the other side. That's on both sides, 3/4 each on both sides. So when I fold into two, I'll have 3/4 inch. So I want this bias to be a bit bold. I don't want it to just be 1/2 inch, okay? So next I'm going to fold it now into two after folding 1/2 inch on both sides of the fabric. So now I'm folding it into two. So by folding into two, I now have 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to use my ironing wood to just press it down. So you can see how my fabric is already creating this nice curve. So now to make it curvy so that it can fit into the round neckline that I have. So I'm going to press it and form this curved shape. Can you see what I'm doing? Just watch my hands. You want to create that circle shape, that round shape that you have on the neckline. So I'm going to use my hand to form it. So because my fabric is unbiased, so once you are creating the curve, whatever shape you try to create, the with the heat coming from the iron, the fabric will turn to the direction that you want it to turn to. Can you see? So can you see what I have here? So you can see that this neckline, that's the bias, is beginning to curve into the shape of the neckline. So you just want to use your hand to control it. Wherever you turn this fabric to, that's where it will go, okay? So can you see what our bias now looks like? It has formed a perfect round neckline. So even when you open it up, it will still come back to the round shape that we want to have. So the next thing I'm going to do is to get the midpoint of this bias. I'll fold it into two like this and then get the center. So I haven't gotten the center. So remember that I have a V neckline here at the front, and I said that the V neckline, the distance from one side of the V neckline to the other is 2 inches. So from the center of the bias, I'm going to mark 1 inch. So remember it's on fold. So when I mark 1 inch on fold, when you open it, it will give us our 2 inches. So I'm going ahead to mark from the center of the bias, I'll mark 1 inch. So I have now, that means I have 2 inches on both sides when it is open, okay? So from this point where I have the 1 inch mark, I'm going to pin the bias to the neckline. This is because I need to have that 2 inches space. Remember that that V neckline is open. So I need to have that 2 inches space between the bias. So you want to just make sure that you do this very carefully so that the bias can sit well on the neckline. So as you can see, I've marked my 1 inch. So from that 1 inch is where I'm going to place the bias from. So I'll be placing the bias from the wrong side. So I'll first open up the bias. Then the half inch I folded first, which is I formed the crease line already. That half inch is what I'll be using to stitch the bias from the reverse side of the fabric. So just watch carefully what I'm doing. You understand exactly what I am doing. So I'm going to open up the bias like this and then pin it from the wrong side of the fabric. That's from the 1 inch I already marked. So this is to just make sure that it is centralized. So I'm going to pin it from here and then pin all the way to the center back. And I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Then I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch it to the neckline. Take note that the bias is open. That's why I said open up and then open up the half inch you folded first, and then so that you can sew on the crease line that you have created already. Can you see what I have here? So you can see, so I'll pin it to the other side, making sure that I'm starting from the other 1 inch I marked at the other side. So as you can see, I'm done pinning the bias to the neckline. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and sew on the crease line that I already formed with my iron and come back and show us. So I'm done stitching it to the neckline from the reverse side. You can see that I still have this side open. Okay, can you see that? It's open. So now the next thing I want to do is to close up this neckline. That's to top stitch the bias. Can you see how the V neckline is coming out really well? So you can see the space. That's the bias is just hanging there because there's really nothing holding it. That's why you must make sure that you measure that 1 inch on both sides so that it's balanced and it's equal to the opening we have there. Okay, so now these are center back. I'm going to have this elastic that I'll be using to form button loop at the back. We cannot leave this back like this. Remember that there's no zipper. So we need to have an elastic or a rope that we can use to form the button. So I'll be using this 1/4 inch elastic to form that loop. So I'm going to place this on the right side of the bias, and then I'll top stitch this. I'm going to just top stitch it here first. So let's go to the sewing machine so that I can show us how to achieve this. Okay, so I've stitched the elastic to the bias. So now I'm closing up the sides of the bias. So I'll go ahead and trim out the excess and then notch it. So I'll repeat the same thing for the other side. I'll place it right side facing right side and then stitch it down also, and then also trim out the excess fabric I have. So now I'll turn it to the right side. So you want to make sure that you push out all those edges that need to be sharp. So I'm making sure to push out mine. Can you see? So I'm turning the bias to now cover up the neckline. So I'll go ahead and pin it like this. So with these pins, pinning it will actually help your work to be very neat. So please just make sure to pin it. Can you see? So I'll pin all the way. So this is the part that the V neckline is, that's just the bias there. So I want to make sure that you are pinning the bias. Let the two ends, that's the folded edges of the bias, let them be on top of each other. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So you just want to make sure that you do this very careful, because this is outside, it will show on the neckline, so you need it to be very neat. Okay, so I'm now going to top stitch the bias to the neckline. So I'm going to stitch this carefully. So you want to make sure that your stitch is at the very tip of the bias. Just watch what I'm doing carefully. So you can see the elastic now. You can see how the elastic is showing at this side, because we use it to hold the buttons together. That's hold the button at the other side. I hope we understand. So this is me just stitching carefully, so you can see. So at this part where I have the V neckline, you want to make sure that the bias is overlapping on each other. That's one is no longer than the other. You want them to be equal. So you want to make sure that your stitch is reflecting on the back side of the bias at this point. So we're done with this neckline and our gown is ready. So I'll take these to the ironing table and give it a very nice press, and then wear it on the mannequin so that we can see the final outcome. So I'm going to fix my buttons as well, or the button is just the button. I'll fix the button and press this very well. So you can see how I'm pressing the neckline. You want to make sure that you are following that shape, just the same way we molded it when I was creating the bias. So you want to try to mold it so that everything sits nice and beautiful. And then I'll wear this on the mannequin and we'll see the final outcome. So if you have watched this video up until this point and you haven't subscribed to my channel, please kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe, and make sure to put on your notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And please feel free to share this video, leave a comment, like this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.